let's start from here. Okay, so you know that ABAP on HANA is the advancement of hardware and software technology, right? So in terms of hardware development, we have the advanced, right, hard disk, advanced processor, advanced RAM, like with the higher efficiency RAM, with the higher efficiency hard disk, right? We have the now solid storage device. So in terms of hardware development, there are so many development, there are so much development. Now we have so much powerful processor. So that is one part. Another part in terms of HANA, right, is the software development. So when the software development was done, uh, software advancement, okay, software advancement, software innovation. So earlier we were having the raw storage, all the database, we are having the raw storage, a way of storing the data. Oracle, Sybase, Informix, right? MySQL. So all these database is having the way of storing the data in raw storage format. When the HANA comes into the picture, along with hardware advancement, software advancement was also taken place, and that's the major step was in form of storing the data, and that was the column storage way of storing the data. So the question can come from the interviewer, like what are the advantages of the column storage? He can ask. This can be one important interview question. And I have come across many people who have been telling that I have not come across such question, but many of my friend has come across. So what actually I have done for this, I have collected the question from many of my friends, many of my colleagues, okay, and many of my previous students who have been attending, and even I have also attended some interview. So based upon those input, I have prepared the VVI question. However, some of the question I have simply put it over here, uh, feeling that this can be the important question, or some of the question just from knowledge point of view I have kept it. So the guideline when you are going for the interview and if you're going to use this PPT is that wherever I have marked the VVI, right, and if you have very less time to prepare for the interview, focus on only those questions which has been marked as a VVI. Ignore all other question. This is the guideline if you are referring this PPT, because all the questions are not going to be VVI and frequently asked question which we are going to discuss. So in order to identify, we will be keep on marking VVI as we have done in ABAP and in OOPS ABAP in the same way. Okay. Advantage of column storage. The very first benefit is that you don't have to create any extra index, because the the way if we're going to store the data in the column storage, automatically it will create the index. However, you have the functionality, however you have the option to create the extra index. You have the option to create the secondary index. Extra index means secondary index. Here the meaning of extra index means secondary index, right? So in HANA database, if you are having some table, don't create the secondary index, not required. Only in some rare cases, right? We can discuss later those rare cases, but only in some very rare cases we go for the secondary index. Otherwise, generally it is not required. So the reason behind, if the way you are storing the data is the column storage, don't create the secondary index, not required. Okay, not recommended by SAP, also not required, because you are storing the data into the column storage format. Okay. Another, if you are storing the data into the column storage format, the very big advantage is going to have in terms of aggregation. You can aggregate the data on fly because you have stored the data into the columnar format. Okay, because you have stored the data into the columnar format. I have discussed in very much detail in my ABAP on HANA course how the column storage behaves and why this aggregation and fly is so effective. Here it is not possible for me to discuss everything, but just I want to give you the glimpse. Whoever is having the basic understanding, he will be able to relate this very easily. But one who is not having the basic understanding, you will feel, you may feel some difficulty. So for you, better you get my ABAP on HANA course, or take any ABAP on HANA course. At least you should have the basic understanding, or at least all the important concept related from ABAP on HANA I have put free on YouTube. Not all the videos, some 15% of video I have put, which is really important to understand the basics. Please go through that through my YouTube channel, Pankaj Kumar, ABAP. You can just search, and I have created one playlist for ABAP on HANA. There, all the videos are there. Go through that, your basics will be clear. Then you will be able to understand the concept in the better way, and you will be able to relate it. Okay. Now, you can perform the aggregation. We understood. This is another benefit. Another, compression is high if you have many duplicate data, right? For example, in Mara table, for in Mara table, for material, for different materials, we have the same material type, right? So material type duplicacy is enormous in the Mara table. So if Mara table is column storage, the compression of mtart field, the material type field, is going to be very high. So the more duplicacy is there, the more compression can be achieved. Okay. So compression is high in case of you have duplicate data. Okay. And the more duplicacy, the more compression, right? Version management of a record of audit and compliance, or as a history without creating. See, this is a very, very powerful tool, very powerful use case, or very powerful benefit of the column storage. The benefit of this, earlier what used to happen, that if we are going to change anything in a data which has been stored in a raw format, okay, and if you're going to change anything in that data, then it will create the backup of that data with complete row. You are going to change one single field, single value, but what it will do, that it will store the complete row as a backup. So it used to take huge amount of memory, right? This problem was solved with the help of column storage way of you know storing the data, because now it will take care only that particular field which is going to be changed, and that is handled with the help of time stamp. Okay. Insert only approach, this is another benefit, right? You are not going to modify, or you are not going to update anything. Everything is there based on the insert only approach. Okay. So you have to remember, this is a very, very important question. What are the advantages of the column storage, right? Remember at least few, answer, right? It's going to be beneficial. Again, another important interview question can be, what is the difference between row storage and column storage, right? What is the difference between row storage and column storage? So here, if we talk about the difference between a row storage and the column storage, right? The most important difference can come from the name itself, the way of storing the data, right? The way of storing the data. If the way of storing the data is going to be different, right, the way of accessing the data is also going to be different, right? So here you can see, if you have the row storage, what is preferred? So if you have the row storage, you can use the select star. If you have the row storage, right, means if you just compare, suppose if you have some table, let's suppose Mara is there with row storage, and same Mara is there with the column storage, right? So if we're going to use the select star from Mara, that is going to be, that is going to give far better performance than the column storage if the same Mara has been stored in the column storage way. If you are going to give their select a star from Mara, that performance is going to be hamper like anything, disastrous performance you will get. Okay, so never ever use select a star if the column storage is used for any table. Okay, never ever use select a star. And if more than 20 fields or more than 10 fields like that it is there, never ever use. So suppose 3 or 4 fields are there, that's fine, right? If you are going to use select a star, only 3 or 4 fields will come. But if more than 10 fields like that it is there, never ever use the select a star in case of column storage. This is what we have. Row storage is very much suitable for high modification. So if you want to modify some record into the table, row storage is the perfect way. Like if you have higher modification, right, go for the row storage. Here, if you have the less modification, if you want to access the data more instead of modifying or instead of updating, go for the column storage, right? Here, this unique record value and no currency or quantity field, right? So here the thing is that what actually I'm trying to tell, you have to go for the row storage when you have the unique record. If your table is having maximum unique record, go for the row storage. But if you have the duplicate record, that means the non-unique record, go for the column storage. Why? Why? Who will tell why? Who will tell? If you have the duplicate record, why we are supposed to go for the, you know, for the column storage? Right here, your answer in the chat box. Anyone? Right here in the chat box, what's your understanding that why, if we have the duplicate record, we are supposed to go for the column storage? Just we have seen here the advantage of column storage. Here only the answer is present. Okay, you have to find out the answer from these points, right? So if you have the duplicate record, why we are supposed to go for the column storage? Guess is also fine, right? Here, see the benefits and find out from here. See the third point, right? Compression is high in case of you have duplicate record. So that's why actually, in case of non-unique record and in case of non-unique record, right? We are supposed to go for the column storage because we have the high compression. We can achieve the high compression, right? Another point, another point over here, like no currency or quantity field, right? No currency or quantity. So this is just a uh, example, because if you are going to have the currency or quantity field, right, so something like euro will come. So just I have given this example, however it is not making more sense. Let me remove this one, forget this currency and quantity. But here, whatever you have just focus more over here, right? So if someone is going to tell that what is the difference between row storage and column storage, the difference is going to be told in terms of accessing the data, or in terms of how we are supposed to use, right? The main difference, how it's going to be store the data. After that, you have to tell in terms of use, right? This is what we can tell. What is sidecar scenario and how we could achieve, right? What is sidecar scenario and how we could achieve? So when HANA was introduced, none of the customer was willing to replace the existing database directly with the HANA database. That's where the sidecar scenario came into the picture, right? So they were having the primary database. Let's suppose they were using the Oracle database. So SAP told you keep on using the Oracle database, but I want to show you the power of a HANA database. Okay. And that was possible to show with the help of, you know, that was possible to show with the help of sidecar scenario. Okay. That was possible with the help of sidecar scenario. So the along with the primary database, they installed the secondary database, and with the help of ADBC ABAP database connectivity, right? They access the table from here to the application server. Okay. This is the sidecar scenario. Now there can be one another question. When HANA database, when very first time the HANA database was directly used as a database. Okay, so here you can see that from NetWeaver BW 7.31, HANA database was used directly as a database for the BW, right? From NetWeaver BW 7.31. Okay, so this can be one another question. However, that is not important question. Okay, this question you can ignore if you want, but this may be question one question, but not BVA as per my understanding. Okay, now the another question is, what is code push down? Another question is, what is code push down, right? This can be one very important question. What is code push down? This is actually very important question. Not can be, this is very important question. What is code push down? This code push down is also known as code to data paradigm. So the question can come like this also. What is code to data paradigm? Okay, answer over here is, that in the three-tier architecture, here you have the presentation server, right? Here you have the presentation server, and then you have the application server, and then you have the database server, right? So this is my database. So when we talk about, this is the application server, and here you have the database server. Okay, so here the thing need to be understood that, let's suppose this database server is not the HANA database. This database is not the HANA database. It's a Oracle or Sybase or Informix, whatever, anything. Non-HANA database. In this case, that if the database is the non-HANA database, this is the old kind of database, it is not that much powerful with compared to HANA database. Like if you compare with the HANA database, it's less powerful, or maybe very less powerful. So what the earlier approach it used to be that we are supposed to fetch the required data from the database first, and whatever the business logic you have to perform, do at application server layer. Okay, business logic, or if you want to modify the data, uh, first get the data into the internal table and then you modify inside the loop at internal table into work area inside the loop and end loop we used to do. So whatever the required data it was supposed to have, first we used to fetch at the application server layer, and there we used to do the business logic. And if we have to do some modification and all, we used to do inside the loop and end loop. Okay, loop and end loop. Okay, so this was just opposite of code push down. you know this was just opposite of code push down. This was just opposite of code to data paradigm. It was data to code paradigm. Means first you have to get the data, and then you will have to do the coding over here in order to process the data. So maximum processing, you know maximum processing you were doing at the application server layer, right? So the approach was something like upward approach, right? How the approach it was? Upward approach, bottom up approach. This also you can tell, the top down. So different terminology actually, what is top down approach of coding. Okay, so this was the bottom up approach of coding. This was the best practice. Okay, this was the best practice, and that's where we were not supposed to use, right, select query inside the loop, right? If you remember, we are not supposed to use select query inside the loop. Why? If we're going to put the select query inside the loop, what will happen? Multiple times we are going to hit the data, right? Means the thing was, because we were avoiding the code push down, because we don't have to hit the multiple time database. Even in HANA also we are not supposed to hit, means here also we have to avoid the select query inside the loop, right? Here also we have to, in HANA also it is not like, we have to put the select query inside the loop. No, not at all recommended. Very bad practice. Never use. Earlier also it was not there, now also it is not there. But what I mean to say that, the meaning of, bottom up approach means first you fetch the data from here and do the business logic over here inside the loop and in loop, do the modification and all. This is the meaning of, you know uh, bottom up approach. But so why? Because your database is not powerful. So why to process the business logic over here? If something is not powerful, something is not efficient in something, why to give the extra burden on that? That's why our approach used to be first fetch the data from the database whatever required and do all the processing at the application server, because application server is so powerful. It's a very powerful. Application server is very powerful, right? The business processing logic, if we're going to do at the application server, it's really amazing, right? It's really amazing. But you know that when the HANA database came into the picture, HANA database is really very powerful, right? Due to the hardware enhancement, due to the software enhancement, right? So now, earlier approach, which was bottom up approach, SAP started recommending to do the top down approach, the code push down approach. SAP started telling that start writing your business logic at database itself because our database has been so powerful, right? So that's where the code push down or code to data. See, code to data means put the code at the data level. Data where the data is the data is at database level, right? What is top down approach, right? So top down approach, this is at top and this is at down. Go from top to down, right? Because my database is so powerful, why you are not going to do the coding at the database level instead of doing the coding at the application server layer? So SAP started telling that do maximum code at the database level, and that's where the maximum technique evolves around the code push down. And what are those techniques? What are the various techniques for the code push down? Who will tell? Right here in the chat box, what are the various techniques after NetWeaver 7.40 was introduced by SAP in order to achieve the code push down or code to data paradigm or top down approach of coding? What are those techniques? Right here in the chat box, be participative right here in the chat box. Tell your whatever uh, like that what are the ways was there, what are the multiple ways we are having in order to you know achieve the code to data paradigm. Please write here in the chat box. You are not able to write, is it, or you are facing some problem? Harkesh, Hitesh, Jayant, I'm not able to see any of the chat over here. I just want to get some of the code push down technique from your side. Okay, okay, fine, fine. Yes, yes. Yeah, it's there. It's there. I'm getting the response. Actually, problem is from my side. I was not able to see the response. Yeah, now I'm able to see. Awesome, awesome, fantastic. Yeah. So we are having, right? Just a second. Mm, okay, good. So I got the various responses over here. CDS, AMDP, right? VDM, CDS and AMDP do calculation in select statement, right? CDS, AMDP, CDS, CDS, AMDP. But I'm very much surprised that you people are missing one of the very popular and very effective technique of the code push down. Only her case has written over here, right? Other people has simply missed it out. Who will tell? Who will tell what is that powerful technique? And we have been using since long time for the code push down. No, not AMDP, not AMDP. New OpenSQL. New OpenSQL is the most preferred technique for the code push down, right? New OpenSQL is the very powerful technique for the code push down. Only her case has written, right? He has written not directly new OpenSQL. He's written inside the OpenSQL, inside the select query, we can write the case statement, right? So in the new OpenSQL, this is possible nowadays that you can write, concatenation. You can write the case statement inside the new OpenSQL. Another SQL you can put, right? You can put the select query on the internal table. So you can do so many things in the new OpenSQL, and new OpenSQL is also a way of code push down, right? Isn't it? So the most preferred technique now also is the new OpenSQL only if you don't have the more reusability, right? If you don't have to create the OData service, or suppose if your code is not going to be called from outside of your SAP environment, right? If only your application server, database, and presentation server is involved, then still new OpenSQL is the most preferred technique, and so powerful, so powerful. It's very powerful. It's very, very powerful. It gives better performance than CDS, AMDP. Many times I have seen this one, and many times you would have also realized, right? Why the reason behind this one? Why the reason behind it gives the better performance than CDS, AMDP, right? ADBC, Native SQL. It gives a better performance. The reason behind it has been optimized by the help of database abstraction interface, right? So here you know that at application server layer we have the database abstraction interface, and database abstraction interface is going to optimize the select query, and the optimized select query is going to be sent to the database in form of native SQL, right? Database abstraction interface is responsible for converting the open SQL into the native SQL, correct? So when they are converting, when that particular layer, that is a big program, right? That is a big program, and that optimizes the OpenSQL in such a way that it should be effective at the database layer. That's why new OpenSQL is nowadays also the most effective technique for the code push down. Second, CDS, right? CDS means CDS sometimes it will come on top of new OpenSQL because of its reusability, right? CDS comes on top of new OpenSQL, right? I will not tell in terms of performance. I'm not agree with that point. From if you want to achieve the performance, I believe new OpenSQL is still better than the CDS, right? This is my understanding. However, in some cases, CDS gives the better performance. In some cases, if you are good in the AMDP, AMDP give you the better performance. But as a general, new OpenSQL, I would recommend, or here whoever is here experienced person, you would have also realized that still new OpenSQL is the better, or there is a big competition between the new OpenSQL and CDS and AMDB, right? But new OpenSQL is still on top. Wherever the reusability comes into the picture, CDS goes into top, right? And whenever the maximum business logic, maximum calculation, maximum processing logic is there, still there AMDP wins. But you have to be better in the AMDP, you know you should be better in writing the code for AMDP, then only it is possible. Otherwise it will be difficult in terms of getting the benefit. You will lose up with the performance. So nowadays, uh, if we try to if you try to summarize the things like which is the better one, right? So see here, what are the different code push down techniques and in which sequence priorities need to be defined? So see, OpenSQL, NetWeaver 7.40 plus onwards, 40%, CDS, it also supports the table function, and VDF 55%. It is having the weightage 55% because of its reusability. But from performance point of view, I would still recommend first try with the OpenSQL, right? You will certainly get better performance. In sometimes maybe CDS will give you the better performance, but still the first recommendation will go if you don't have to generate the OData service and all, right? OpenSQL, then the CDS, then the MDP. So in interview, you will have to give the answer like this. Your interviewer will be happy. Okay. If you go through the various blogs on the internet, right, you will get this recommendation from the various expert. Okay. OpenSQL is at top, New OpenSQL. OpenSQL means new OpenSQL. Okay, new OpenSQL. CDS, core data services, AMDP, ABAP, managed database procedure, ADBC, ABAP database connectivity, not required nowadays, right? Information model, this is again going to be obsolete, or it has been obsolete, you can tell like this. Only calculation view is there in the picture, that is only alive and is being frequently used by BI or BW guys, right? Not for us. And native SQL, whenever some data base is not present at the application server layer, you don't have any choice, you have to use the ADBC or native SQL. So these are rarely used. However, this is the sequence you will have to give the answer. So these are the various code push down technique. First is the new OpenSQL, second is the CDS, then AMDP, then ADBC, then the information model, and then the native SQL. All these code push down technique I have discussed in very much detail in my course. Okay, there you can learn. Fine. In this sequence, you'll have to tell. Now let's go ahead. And another question can be, tell some name of the tables which replace many tables in S4 HANA. Okay, so in S4 HANA, you know that from the functional point of view, there are so much optimization has been done, right? So if you talk about the material management module, MSEG, MKPF, MARA, MARCI, MARDI, right? All these material management related table is now, right, removed and converted into a single table called matdoc. Okay, so in interview we'll have to tell at least one or two table if they are going to ask us kind of question. Okay, so some of my friend came through this kind of question where interviewer asked that tell some name of the tables in S4 HANA which was newly introduced. So the matdoc and SCDoka. In the finance module we have the SCDoka. This table has been, you know, removed, and instead of this table actually have been combined together and put in a single table called ACDoka, right? But now you might be wondering, then another question your interviewer will ask, so if this table has been removed, then how the existing code is working, because in existing code at many places this table has been used there, right? In existing code at many places this, you know, this table in the select query as a structure, right? When you have to create one internal table or work area, we're going to use this table definition as a reference, right? So how SAP was able to handle this scenario? Who will tell? Who will give this answer? Any idea? Yes, converted in views. Thanks, Harkesh. Yeah. So all this table has been converted in CDS view, right? This is also known as the replacement object. Now Mars is not a table, it's a replacement object. You can go and check, right? So for, means it has been converted into the view, and for each view there has been defined a replacement object. So there you can go and check in SE11, go to the table, go into the display mode, and after that you will go to the utilities, and from there you can check for each table there is a replacement object, and you know, this all corresponds to a CDS view. Okay, so if it is converted there in form of CDS view, it will not give any syntax error, and you know, the old code will still survive, right? But this is how in S4 HANA the table has been. So this is just a two example. There are several examples, just you can go and check. Okay, if you remember two at least, your journey to crack the interview will be smoother. When the database tables were replaced by new table in S4, how previous code is still working, right? So the same answer is the table has been converted into CDS view. What is the full form of HANA? This would be very first question. Okay. However, you know already, high performance analytical appliance. HANA database is supported by which OS, right? Not important question, but just for information, you can remember. Swiss Linux and Red Hat Linux. HANA database is supported by these two, you know, these two OS server. HANA was developed in which language? Just for information, C++ language. You can ignore when you are preparing for interview. Okay. What is the difference between S4 HANA on premise and S4 HANA on cloud? This can be one, very, very important question. Okay. You should have this understanding. Okay. Some of my friend come across this question. What is the difference between S4 HANA on premise and S4 HANA on cloud? So on premise means a company is having complete setup with him, whether it is a database server or application server or network, whatever, complete setup is there with him. When you talk about the S4 HANA on cloud, the complete setup is going to be there on cloud with the help of SCP and GSP or SCP and the Amazon Web Services, right? AWS or Microsoft Azure. All right. So SCP is going to be there, SAP Cloud Platform, SCP for the purpose of software, and for the purpose of hardware, we can have the GCP, means Google Cloud Platform or Amazon Web Services or Microsoft Azure. Anything can be taken for the purpose of hardware. So you must be knowing about the different aspect of cloud services like PaaS, AAS, SaaS, right? Platform as a service, application as a service. So we will discuss in a glimpse, in a summarized way. We'll discuss in the later slides. Okay. So this is the main difference actually. So the difference, the completely own setup, and in S4 HANA on cloud, here the application server and database server can be taken on rent from the Google Cloud Platform or Amazon Web Services or from the Microsoft Azure kind of stuff, kind of cloud service provider. Okay. What are the important feature of HANA? This is important question. Sometimes these questions have been asked. Okay. So this is the important question. What is the important feature of the HANA? See, it is having the calculation engine which is responsible for, making the calculation fast. So if you have some CI function, right? Calculation engine is responsible for executing the CI function fast. In-memory database, right? You know that HANA is an in-memory database. Everything is there in the RAM, right? You have the max DB for the purpose of having the backup. What DB is there for the purpose of backup? This can be one question, right? In memory is not possible, right? In memory database is not possible if you just talk about, like, because when your power is going to get off, then all the data from the RAM is going to be, you know erased. So for that purpose, what we have max DB for the backup, right? So in-memory database is there, that is there in the RAM, but for the backup we have the max DB. Okay. Massive parallel processing because of the multi-core processor nowadays we are having. It supports both OLTP and OLAP, online transactional processing and online analytical processing. OLTP means the select query which we write, select query which we write, when we have to develop the program. So the one which we write, and OLAP, this one, online analytical processing, this is used by the BI or BW people, where they have to process the large amount of data. So whenever the large amount of data need to be processed, OLAP comes into the picture, like InfoQ, right? uh, kind of terminology comes into the picture. And OLTP, the simple select query which we write in our program, right? So HANA supports both OLTP and OLAP. That's why HANA became more popular, because one database is going to fulfill the purpose of, you know, BI or BW, and for transactional services also, for both the purpose, for both analysis and for transactional purposes, right? That's why it became more popular. Digital core, you can integrate, you can, if you have the HANA database, you can achieve IoT, you can achieve artificial intelligence, you can, integrate the chatbot, you can integrate the sensor, you can integrate, means machine learning, all these things, all these digital core is supported by HANA database. Okay, so this is the feature of the HANA database. This just we have seen. One question can be, tell some component of the HANA database. Just some component, not all the components. So one or two components, if you are able to remember, like application server, right? Index server. Index server is the true DB. One question, many a time we discuss among our within our friends. This question is, you know, what is the heart of HANA database? Okay, what is the heart of HANA database? Means actual HANA database. What is the actual HANA database? So answer is index server. Index server is actually, you know, index server is the actual HANA database, the second layer over here, index server. This is the true DB actually, this is the true DB. So this answer you should remember. What is the main component of a HANA database? What is the heart of the HANA database, right? So answer should be the index server. Name server, another component, name server. What is the use of name server? So name server is used to scale the HANA database, right? So suppose if you want to attach multiple HANA database together, so you have to define a name server in a database which will be responsible for the load balancing, which should be responsible for, navigating the instruction from one database to multiple database, right? So this is the name server. Then you have the script server, right, for the SQL script compilation and all. Document store server for storing the big data and, large data. Processor server and statistical server. And here you have the integration server. So with the help of this, you can integrate the Facebook or Twitter. Here you have the lifecycle management, installation update, or so here with the help of all this upgrade and all, if you want to upgrade the database and all, this is the portion responsible. Tooling or provisioning, right, for the purpose of data migration. LTMC tool, right? LTMC, that's where comes into the picture. Here just remember one or two component, that's fine. You don't, no need of, remembering all these things. What is the name server, just we discussed. This is important, very important. What important point need to be taken care of while migrating to S/4HANA? Very, very important interview question, very frequently asked BVI question. And if they are going to hire for a for the HANA migration project, they are going to ask this question. Okay, they are going to ask this question. We will discuss this question tomorrow. Let's stop today our session over here itself, right? And we will discuss this question, what important point need to be taken care. There are so many questions, right? We'll be also discussing, say, what is the best practices when database is HANA. So all the VVI question we are going to. FDA, see, what is FDA? Fast data access. This is also one very frequently asked question nowadays, right? What is FDA? Very, very frequently asked question. Okay, FDA, fast data access, right? So this we'll discuss. Fine. Let's meet tomorrow and we'll discuss the remaining portion tomorrow. And with this, let us stop our session over here. I'm going to stop the recording.